the things I like to talk to parents about are two kinds of skills that I feel are helpful for new parents in learning to take care of their baby. Mm-hmm. And the first skill is learning what zone their baby is in. And by zone, I mean how awake or how fussy or how sleepy the baby is. And when we talk to parents and when we watch babies, I think about babies having three zones. They have their resting zone, which is, of course, their sleeping zone. Mm-hmm. They have their ready zone, which he is in right now because he's ready to eat or they're ready to play. And babies have their rebooting zone, which is their fussing and crying zone. And I know you've seen a little bit of that. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I like that word rebooting because it makes me think about our computers, how our computers get just overwhelmed with material, with information. They have to reboot and then they're able to work again. Right. Mm-hmm. And he sometimes probably gets just overstimulated, overwhelmed with information, stimulation, and he has to fuss and cry a few minutes and then he's able to be available to play and eat and sleep again. Mm-hmm. The other parent skill I like to talk about is understanding when our babies send out an SOS. And SOS stands for sign of overstimulation.
All newborns are at times overstimulated as they adjust to being out in the world. Babies who are born early SOS more often. The first way babies will send out an SOS is with changes in their body's skin color, movement, and breathing. Caleb, who was born a few weeks early, shows all these SOS body changes. See how his face turns a bit red in color, his muscles jerk and shake, and his breathing gets faster. Some babies will hiccup as well. 2-week-old Elizabeth demonstrates the first behavioral SOS, spacing out. Watch as Jan plays with Elizabeth by shaking the rattle. Elizabeth begins to look like she's staring into space. This spacing out is a clear sign of overstimulation. 3-week-old Anna demonstrates the second behavioral SOS, switching off. As her mom patiently tries to get her attention, Anna looks the other way. The harder Mom tries, the more Anna switches off. Mom soon learns that this switching off is a sign of overstimulation and not her baby rejecting her. Elizabeth demonstrates the third behavioral SOS, shutting down. Again, we see Jan playing with Elizabeth. Though Elizabeth is momentarily engaged with this play, she soon begins to get drowsy and shuts down as a response to too much stimulation.
So, of course, when we see a baby SOS, we'd wonder, well, what do we do to help them? And there are two ideas that will be helpful. One is to decrease the amount of stimulation, and the other is to increase the amount of support we have of the baby.
Jan and Caleb's dad notice these SOSs. Speaking quietly, glancing to the side, holding his hands against his chest, swaying, and swaddling are good ways to respond to Caleb's SOS.
This is little Maria, who's now 2 weeks old, but she has a special story because she decided to come into this world 4 weeks early.
Well, of course, because I've had 4 kids, I kind of know what to expect. And in the hospital, she just had little tics where she would jerk or her eyes would roll in the back of her head and she would just fall asleep at the drop of a dime, and we would change her clothes or weigh her even. Mm-hmm. The startle reflex would just be really too much for her. She would turn beet red and scream, and just it seemed so traumatic. The next day we came in for the first weigh-in after the hospital. She was 4 days old, but it was after we came out of the hospital. That's when you explained to me about premature babies being overstimulated and how they can shut down to keep from processing that information so it doesn't overstimulate them. They kind of shut down.
And what were you able to do to help her with that?
Well, because you gave me some information that showed me how to keep her from going to be overstimulated. Don't look her in the eyes too much. Don't coo and talk to her too much and just try to keep her relaxed. And then we, to change her diaper, you showed me that keeping her hands here keeps her relaxed. So we would snuggle her up in a blanket and then undo the bottom part.
Oh, wow.
Because
so you would do that and she wouldn't start crying.
She wouldn't.
And wouldn't start that kind of jerking.
She,
It's been about 10 days since you were here before. She's having real times of being a little bit more alert, and you're able to engage with her a little bit more. Something is easy but as important as learning to read your baby's body language. And here she is at only 2 weeks old, and she is already way past her birth weight.
So yeah, this is 6 months later. With Miss Tedder's help, we learn how to keep our babies comfortable and how to make sure that we don't overstimulate our babies. And because of that, we have a 6-month-old superstar. When I tell people she's a preemie, they just laugh and say, yeah, right. Yeah, that's right.
Oh, you have so much to say. Dad, Dad, Dad.